Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Talk. And it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, isn't it?
That's great.
Kevin, you were away last week.
Yes, I was.
I understand you have driven more kilometers around Rutland than the average Amazon delivery driver.
Yeah, lots, and all around West Kelowna, and driving to and from Home Depot so I could finish some of our house renovations.
Oh, you got to put $1 in the jar now.
Back and forth between H2O because we had a triathlon and all kinds of stuff. So life is good, but Rutland is our home these days.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? We got to go out there yesterday because Ezra had his ultimate frisbee game at Rutland Middle.
Oh.
That was a happening place yesterday afternoon because we had a little corner of the field was the ultimate frisbee, and then you've got like the high school rugby game right over there, which at times was a little more interesting. And then you had like soccer practice all around behind us, girls rugby practice. It was. I can only imagine what a Saturday and a Sunday afternoon out there would look like with every event that had a Bessie participating in it all happening. But good time away. Any particular highlight you want to share?
It was fantastic. My mom came and just seeing our kids, doing their thing all weekend long. It was just fantastic, and just the stage that we're at of just seeing our kids just enjoy life in sports and getting outside and doing things and being active, and it's very pleasing for us. We did have a vehicle breakdown in the middle of it all on a very unnecessary day, but you know what? We're glad it's all sorted and it's fixed and we're back on the road. So let's roll.
Interesting. I said highlight, and you're like vehicle breakdown. No, you said mom first. Let's note that. So if your mom's watching this, she made the list. It's all good. But we're glad to have you here. Glad to have you back, and glad it was a mostly good time away. Jeff, on Sunday you launched us into something new. You shared this in the sermon, but this is a copy of a book called Bless.
Yep.
And we're going to be looking at this in depth for the next few weeks.
Yeah. Well, 5, probably 6 more weeks.
6 more weeks. Okay.
Each letter gets a week, and then we'll probably do a wrap up.
Now, when I memorized the books of the Bible, this wasn't one of them.
Yep.
So why are you not preaching the Bible for the next 6 weeks? No, I asked that with tongue firmly in cheek because I want you to kind of respond to this. I know the sermons are going to be based on scripture. You said inspired by this, but I don't doubt in the back of someone's mind. In fact, I'd be highly surprised if nobody has asked the question of you yet. Are we preaching more than the Bible these days? So just kind of, if you want to put people who might be concerned at peace, how does this and the Bible overlap for the next 6 weeks?
That's a great question. And that's I always want to be preaching the Bible and based on Scripture, and so so I was a little hesitant to be preaching through so inspired by a book, right?
Yeah.
However, as I revealed on Sunday, it's a bit of my history with evangelism, with sharing your faith, and heard many people's stories over the years about, I don't even know how to share my faith, or how do I do it without being offensive, or how do I realize this is a topic that we really need. You really need to talk about. And so when I read that book, it was, the authors talked about how these practices actually come from the life of Jesus. And how Jesus blessed, how he told people about himself. And so a disciple of Jesus, which is what we all are, is someone who is with Jesus, spends time with Jesus, becomes like him, does what he did. Those are things that he did, right? And so I'm trying to show those in each sermon, and then hone in on how do we actually live this out so that we can be more like Jesus. So we can be living out the great commandment of love the Lord your God, love your neighbor, and the Great Commission, which is go and make disciples, go tell people about Jesus and witness, in Acts 1:8 it's called, share what you've seen and heard.
Can I go back to where even you said in the sermon, you talked about, how this book kind of came into our view. Like,
Yeah.
there was a friend of ours just down the street who has been pastoring for 30 years.
Yeah.
And this book actually also became part of their church's new believers / membership course almost. And so really what we're trying to do is saying, okay, you've accepted Jesus. What does that look like? How do you live that out?
Yeah.
Where is that based in scripture of what we are to be doing next? And this is what a lot of that brings out. Years ago, we had a membership course as well too, and really what it did is it took a lot of those things and said, as a believer in Jesus, what does that look like? Well, it looks like being in continual communion with Jesus, hearing other people's stories, praying for them, being a part of the community that you're a part of, serving, worshiping, loving, being just a person, giving, like all these things that we believe are absolutely not just good ideas, just like this book says, this is not just a good idea. This is actually necessary for us to be living out our faith and to be like Jesus. And that's what I do love about this book, is that it takes the life of Jesus and says, this is really what it looks like. Being in constant communion with his Father through prayer, through being with others, listening and serving and caring and just eating with them, and like just simple things. This is how we become more like Jesus. And it's not just this little self-help, right? And that's what I love. That's what I love, and I think that's exactly what you just said just a minute ago.
Well, absolutely. So one of the things that came to my mind as I was listening to the sermon was a story I heard a number of months ago of an individual in our city who was telling me about not so much why they're not a Christian, but because it's multi-layered. But one of the things that happened, a relationship breakdown they had with a friend of theirs, where he said, I'm no longer friends with this person anymore. And what happened was that person kept trying to tell them about Jesus. And when finally he said, look, I don't think I'm ever going to believe, I don't. Suddenly that friend stopped returning the phone calls, and they haven't really talked in years. And he didn't say that's why he's not a believer. The reasons were all these other things. He just said that's sort of like I realized what that person's faith really, like how they lived it out was that project-oriented kind of thing. And so I really wanted to, I really appreciate what you're saying there, because I think we all kind of hear stories like that, go, I don't want to do that. But then sometimes the exact opposite of that is, well, we never share that, or we share in such like subtle ways that, we just almost go too far in the other direction. So instead of us just sort of talking about like, failed projects or whatever, I think how do we not make this book, this, this blessed book, just another project itself, right? How do we, and so I don't know if you want to, I don't want you to have to give like too much away of what's coming in the next 6 weeks, but just one thought as we move forward with this, so that this isn't, because it could very quickly just be the next project, right? Okay, so my neighbor's not going to be my project, but boy, I'm going to make sure that one of these things is. And
your story, one immediately comes to mind of somebody else telling me a story just like that, where they were the project, and as soon as it was known that they wouldn't accept, they're out, right?
They're out,
And that's one of the things that I wanted to, that's why we ended the sermon with that Barna study that said, what do people want in someone to share their faith? They want really a genuine friend. And one of the top 3 things was someone confident in what they believe, but within the context of a friendship. So you always tease me about talking about rock climbing, but if you hang out with me very long and you ask me my interests, you will hear rock climbing. I just really enjoy it. And I will offer to take you and go climbing with you. And if you say no, I will not stop being your friend. I will still be your friend. That's kind of the idea, right? We love the person, and so Jesus is so important to us that he will come out. If we truly love him, he will come out, right? Like we'll talk about him. It'll come out in how we live and how we act. I go to church, on Sundays, like, I help out with whatever. It will come out. Be confident about it. But when they say stop, we stop. We respect it, right? So how do we make it not be a project? That is really hard. That's been a process for me because I was so project oriented, so brought up that way. So to be honest with you, that's why we're talking about it too, is because then starting off with the Great Commandment and begin with prayer, I think, which I'll talk about this Sunday, we have to be talking to God about it, right? Like, God, help me to love these people. Help me to love like you do. Help me to want to share with them because I'm so in love with you and I want them to have you too. You know, like it really is, I think, a process for those of us who are project oriented. Some of us aren't. Some of you are just like, oh, I do this stuff naturally. I hope this is a really encouragement to you that you're doing it, you know, like this is great. Let's, you know, when we get to story, let's help you know how to tell your story, you know, really well. So yeah. I hope that's
No, I think that's really good. I really appreciate that note. That one of the last things you said there about how like some of us are already doing aspects of this.
Yeah.
And so let's just affirm that and celebrate that, and then go, well, how do we grow that? This is kind of the question on my mind. And right, so that I don't beat myself up go, oh no, because one of the other things that came to mind. If Jesus like laid out you have to do in order to be my follower, and I know this is extreme, but one of the thoughts is, well, then every time we go to bed, we're becoming a bad follower of Jesus. I'm not telling anyone right now, right? So in my dream, I've got to be witnessing to people. Like, well, no, that's not the point, right? Yeah. The point is, it's how are we leaning? What are and so how are we incorporating this into just normal life and stuff.
Being authentic about it, right?
Yeah. We can be normal people who love Jesus, love our neighbors.
Maybe not normal, like in the way of the world.
Well, it depends on your parameters for normal.
That's what makes us unique is we're chosen, accepted followers of Jesus that are so excited about it, right? So, sorry.
Yeah.
I know that's a rabbit trail, but. Yeah.
Well, I think it's normal to have passions and right? And if Jesus is one of those, that's great.
Yeah.
And like you said, Jeff, like even just living out what we are being called to do, even the way that we eat with one another, if Jesus is fulfilling us, it's naturally going to come out of us, and we get to share.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're passionate about smoking meat, right? What are you going to do? You're going to have your neighbors over and be like, you got to try this.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you're passionate, like you share the rock climbing thing, whatever the thing is, you share it with people. So that's great. Things we should be looking forward to. We've got a number of things on our radar. Because youth don't show up on Monday night. Come instead to Emmanuel Tuesday at 6:45. Ladies thing here on Saturday, 2 to 4, $2.
Yeah.
Come and hang out.
Yeah.
Maybe do some crafts.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
What else are we looking ahead to?
This Sunday is Mother's Day.
Oh yes.
Just for those that may or may not remember, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. I cannot stop commending our women's committee enough to have an event where the wives will go so that us dads can make it look like we didn't forget Mother's Day. So keep that on your agenda.
That's
2 hours of prep time that you get on
That's all
Saturday.
you need. Wow.
Another way that moms are looking out for, women in our lives are looking out for
We
us.
have it too good. But Mother's Day does signify the beginning of the Baby Bottle Brigade.
Yes.
And so these are now available. If you want to contribute to the Okanagan Valley Pregnancy Care Center, you can go online to their website. You can grab a bottle, fill it with some money, some coins, some paper bills, whatever, and then bring that back. It goes till Father's Day, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a month and a bit to think through if you want to give, pray about it, how much you want to give. But that starts this week as well.
Yeah, and they make it easy by having pick up a bottle and just put loose change in. So that's one way to fill it.
That's really how it started.
So,
and that's just, some of us don't really have loose change anymore. And so there's a number of ways to give to that. It's all the information you need is in the bottle. So if you grab one of those and you can look at all the options there. If you want to help with that organization, which they're doing some good work in our town and helping people. And so we appreciate them and what they do and are happy to get involved in a small way. So there's that. Anything else that people need to be aware of, or just
Well, there'll be more things that will be coming in the next
Coming.
few weeks, but I think that's enough for now.
that's a good bit to chew on. So thanks for spending some time with us, and we hope to see you really soon face to face.